Welcome to another Astro Priestesses Roundtable for the Taurus solar month 2025. So exciting to be back with all of you again. And, we've been talking about 2025. It is such an amazing year. And interesting, this solar month has so much going on. It's just, I mean, like, oh my gosh, it just keeps going. We're just, I'm just breathing, being present. And so the sun will enter Taurus on April 19th, and it's going to be squaring Mars. Mars is going to be have entered Taurus. I'm sorry. So it's going to be conjunct Mars and square the sun. So wait, something's conjunct. I forget. No, maybe not. I'm not looking at the exact chart. But Mars is square the sun and trine Neptune. The sun is trine Neptune. So that's a big start, to the day. And we've had this uh, energy of what's happening with Mars. Mars went retrograde back in December, and then it went direct in February, and it's been making these oppositions to Pluto. It's going to do while we're in this solar month. We'll talk more about that later. Also, Pluto will be stationing direct in this month. We're going to have a lot going on with Venus. She's going to make her first conjunction with the moon at the crown chakra in this amazing Venus cycle that is we've been seeing it as an Aries Pisces cycle because if you look at when was Venus visible, she was visible in Aries. In fact, someone in our community, and Sheridan, who does the Venus alchemy with me, saw Venus when she was in Aries in the morning sky. And then for a lot of us, and for me, it was like I didn't see it until it was in Pisces. But we've been really looking at this blending of Aries and Pisces, and it's just astounding that it's also happening with all the things that have been going on with Neptune and Saturn going into Aries and back into Pisces and back into Aries, and the Venus Mercury retrogrades starting in Aries, going back into Pisces, going back into Aries, and Venus will go back into Aries on April 30th. It's going to conjunct the North Node in Pisces on April 23rd. It's going to, so that third time, a third pass of Venus by the North Node, activating something in our destiny, which is also very interesting that this is happening simultaneously. The North Node happens to be in Pisces, South Node in Virgo at this time when we're having this shift into the Venus cycle that could be considered Aries, could be considered Pisces, could be considered both Aries and Pisces. It's just another factor that's saying, yes, it's really got the energy of both of these things happening. And it's something to do with our destiny, something to do with our collective destiny. And how do Aries and Pisces, the alpha point, Aries, the omega point, Pisces, and that between point where we can start something new, something can be reset, something can be activated in a new way. And how is that occurring? And again, Venus will be at the is very close to the omega point at right soon after we get into the Taurus month, and then goes into the alpha point on April 30th. Like, okay, this is wild, this is crazy. And then something else that I feel really inspired to that we want to talk about, and I don't have to talk about it completely at this moment, but on May 6th, Mercury is going to conjunct Chiron and Eris, and Chiron and Eris are going to be exactly conjunct later in May. For the first time of three conjunctions, and for the first time since 1971 in Aries. And so they're big players in this story as well. And I think that I'll just kind of leave that tease right there and pass this along, and then we can come back to that in a little bit because that's just a lot to digest right there. So
So much. I love it so much. And I feel I would like to start with the energy of the opposition between Mars and Pluto and and how that is the ending of the month together with Venus close to Saturn. So the ending of the month of April is quite intense and difficult. It can be a challenge, 100%. Then I feel like the new moon is very challenging as well for many reasons, like is opposite is in Taurus. So there is this T, not T square, there is a grand cross between Pluto in Aquarius, Mars in Leo already, the moon with the sun in Taurus, and then on the other side we also have Lilith in Scorpio. So there is this grand cross of something very deep coming into awareness, and I feel it has a lot to do with like going back to the Garden of Eden. This is something that is being very intense for me lately. But in order to go back to the Garden of Eden, we need to feel the pain of exile and the pain of all the stories that the patriarchy has put into us that is ingrained in our system. So any attachment that we have to suffering, to war, to hard work, like it has to be difficult, it has to be a mountain. And like all, because when we were expelled like from the paradise, the sentence is you will gain your money. I'm translating because I know this sentence in Spanish, but it's very Catholic, especially for Catholic people and the countries. We have them in our blood in so many ways that when we are expelled from the paradise, it's like you will earn money with the sweat of your forehead and you will give birth with pain. And I feel that is what we are transmuting with all of these energies. It's like, no, we can give birth orgasmically. And we just were told that it has to be painful. So then the body keeps repeating this pattern of being painful because it's the only thing we know. And the same with the, like when we are sharing something that is in our song of genius, and that is Pluto in Aquarius, really shedding everything that is on the way of our genius. And everything that we think we need to give up in order to be part of the masses. But in order to be a genius and to accept the geniuses that each one of us are, we have to accept our uniqueness, and that in so many ways normally make us different from the rest. And that is a really big fear for all the human beings. Like we just want to belong. So in order to belong, sometimes we exile the genius from ourselves. So I think this ending of April, there is this shadow work that is very important to do. And like all the wounds can come back, like everything like with Chiron also in the picture, like it's in so many ways. We have Lilith, we have Pluto, we have Mars opposite Pluto. Any shadow also related to the masculine energy is so much in forefront. Like it's very important to really look at our healthy masculine in men and women. It doesn't matter. We all have a masculine that is the energy of saying yes, saying no, going full force towards whatever we want without having to kill the others. It's like just you go with your momentum, but it doesn't it's not forced against something. It's just momentum towards life. And the masculine is the one that really help us to channel our energy towards the future. And every time that we are putting that energy into something that is not in alignment with ourselves, we are in the exile of the Garden of Eden. Like, because the Garden of Eden is when you are in alignment with the fullness of who you are. And that is going to look different for each one of us. And that's the magic of astrology and why we are so much in love. It's like what works for one person is poison for another person. The medicine and the nectar for one person doesn't work. So there are no cookie cutter formulas that work for everyone and that we all follow like robots without thinking. So I think all this grand cross in the new moon as well is really showing up all the ways that we are exiling that genius, and it doesn't seem easy, but at the same time, I think it's such a great opportunity to look at that shadow work and really go to the cave that we fear the most. So we embrace all the power, all the treasure that we were looking for that is there.
Oh, I love this. And I feel like I'm in full on Pisces North Node initiation training right now because I'm just like totally being spontaneous in the moment because life is like that is like the circumstance and reality of life right now. But it's so like Pisces, it's trusting the divine timing, the divine unfolding. And I love how all of these Astro Priestess roundtables always play out because it's like even just the divine timing of the order of things that Kaylin says something and you weave it into a tapestry that like it gives me a new inspiration. Then Mar, you say something, and it's like how we're just trusting and like weaving this beautiful tapestry together that just, I mean, I feel like, wow, just so on full on like Pisces North Node, surrender and flow and trust. But Mar, what you were really sharing about the Garden of Eden and working with that exile wound to like return to the Garden of Eden, just what my attention drew through as I have like the little natal chart kind of in the corner of my screen here is as we're starting Taurus season, Pythia and Hygeia are conjunct in Taurus. They've actually been conjunct for a little bit here and Taurus, and they're conjunct like very closely at the start of Taurus season. We have Hygeia, this like goddess of healing at 19 Taurus, and then Pythia, who is, like the oracle, the oracle at Delphi at 19 degrees of Taurus too. They're both starting. And now I'm just thinking too, 19 degrees of Taurus. This is actually where in 2022 we had the Uranus North Node conjunction right there. So maybe a connection, I'm not sure. But there's something that's coming to me that is so powerful around so many of us almost it's like we have so many of us like me, so many that I work with, I think many tuning in, we have a deep wound around it's a witch's wound, essentially, a deep wound around being exiled or ostracized or demonized or vilified for our magic, and particularly for our feminine magic. And so, so many of us through this lifetime that we're currently in, and this incarnation where it's actually fairly safe to be out, to really embody our magic and to be out in the world and sharing it. I mean, just look at like Instagram, right? There's so many people that like, their hashtags really claiming these their magic. And but so many of us still carry these wounds around like, oh, it's not safe to really fully embody and express my magic in whichever way, my feminine magic in whichever way I relate to that. It can be so many different ways. I mean, there is all kind of the same thing, but it might be witch or shaman, shamaness, oracle, mystic, like so many seer, priestess, so many of these different ways we can embody this energy. And a lot of it is in this lifetime, like maybe. Of course, there's like always outliers in different situations, but really often what we're dealing with is like actually like the reality is just like a fear of judgment, maybe from like our family or those maybe that are really like dogmatic with their religious beliefs or something. But we have this like deep, deep fear. And I'm feeling something around this really powerful potential with this Taurus season with Hygeia and Pythia, like the healing that comes from really being able to embody, like be that physical vessel for the oracle, the mystic, the channel that we are really allowing our magic to be fully embodied and to express it, and the pleasure and the delight and the joy that comes from living a magical life. Like I just see something so powerful and so healing on, and you like made this light bulb go off for me, Mar, about oftentimes we're exiling that aspect of ourself because of these deep past life wounds, and that there's something here that we can experience it in a delightful, joyful, pleasurable way. And the magic that we create in our life, the really just like embodying and claiming our embodied feminine, feminine magic here. So that's like I'm like, wow, it's really powerful. You know, I mean, like Pythia is gonna come to, I think she might come to conjunct Uranus this Taurus season. I have to like look, but she starts moving along here pretty quick, which is just gonna be like wild awakening of being that mystic, being that channel, being that oracle. And in Taurus, it is like how we are the physical embodied like vessel of that. So how to ground, like how to actually ground this like wild cosmic like wisdom, like the star codes, the light codes, like how to actually ground it and embody it in a very physical way and to build or create something off of it in our lives in a very physical way. So, I mean, like I just feel like the more we can just ground and allow ourselves to open up to the mystic, the oracle, the priestess, the witch, the shamaness, like whatever it is, like there's something so powerful from that. And just something I want to speak to, like just the general of this Taurus season. Over this Taurus season, we're gonna like it might start out a little bit slower, but we're gonna really pick up momentum here. Like we've been in eclipse season that was in March. We've had all this retrograde energy through March, into the beginning or into mid-April. Mars still like is not come like Mars is still not fully like moved past its retrograde post retrograde like shadow or post retrograde path, but over this Taurus season, Mercury will come out of that post retrograde shadow, meaning it will clear the path of retrograde. It'll finally that direct motion. Venus will come out of post retrograde shadow. Mars will actually make it out of post retrograde shadow and Leo. So I feel like as all three personal planets, Venus, Mercury, Mars, come out of that post retrograde shadow this Taurus season, it might be like boom, boom, boom. The energy starts moving of where we've kind of felt stuck and stagnant and like maybe in like a like mental, I mean, I don't know, Neptune's like on my Mercury, so maybe it's just me, not everybody, like mental, cloudy, like haze. Like I just feel like the energy is gonna start moving, which feels really, really exciting.
Oh yes, love this. Oh my gosh. Uh, Garden of Eden, gonna come back to that in a minute. Venus does go past its retrograde point on May 15th, so mid-May, a month from the day we're doing this recording, actually. So, but this whole the Taurian mysteries are all about the pleasure paradigm. Or that's what I like to call it, the pleasure paradigm. How we learn from pleasure rather than from pain. We've been conditioned to learn from pain, and yes, pain can be a teacher, and yes, what challenges us changes us, and these things can. It's not that it's a bad thing, but the pleasure piece has been completely written out of the story, or almost completely written out of the story. And so for me, if you think about sacred pleasure, our job here is to experience sacred pleasure in our body, in our being. Um, I was thinking about being, one of the things I talk about, Beltane. Beltane will be exact on May 4th, I think, this year, when it reaches 15 degrees Taurus. And that is, I got this Beltane message many years ago that said, be yourself. I was like, oh, Beltane, B-E, Tane, Beltane, be yourself. Oh, that's such a great message. Anyway, but we often have trouble being ourselves because we're in anxiety about how we are trying to become ourselves or become something or whatever that might be. So if we could just relax into being who we are, how amazing would that be? And this is with everything going on, we've got so much support for that right now at this time. And so the Garden of Eden was definitely a description of the pleasure paradigm or of a place of pleasure, where everything was just all the needs were met, everything was there. Orgasmic pleasure was probably something easy to have. So I just feel like this is such a powerful month to really tune into that and have the support in healing, doing the deep healing, as you were saying, Mar, to like with the things that are going on with Chiron and the wounded healer, the shamanic healer, doing that deeper healing work around that, and the witch wound, you know, how people were burned at the stake for not even doing anything. But and if they were doing something, it was probably something good, and they didn't like that. So that was the power and control thing, and so then it created all this fear, and so we still live with that, and with Pluto going retrograde in this month, in this time on May 6th. No, I'm sorry, on May 4th, on the Beltane day, on the day of Beltane, or the exact cross quarter point. It's like, this idea of contacting our inner genius, because when we go into the underworld, the story of Aladdin is going into the underworld to recover the treasure, and for the lamp with the genie inside of it, the genie being the genius, our inner genius, and the evil sorcerer who wants this doesn't want to have to face his shadow, so he sends a kid, Aladdin, in to get the lamp for him, and winds up not getting it, but Aladdin does. Aladdin gets it because he goes and he does the work. So that is the importance of us doing that, looking at those things that scare us, being willing to face them, walk through them, be with them, and then we get empowered as a result of that. So I think I'm going to wrap this up here, but I still want to talk about Chiron and Eris and Mercury, and also the days of no shadows. So we'll save that for the next round.
I love that. And I will bring a little bit of Chiron in Aries, I think. And Lilith was also really kind of like doing this to me, like talk a little bit more. And Lilith is being very interesting for me lately because I feel I have had like a Lilith initiation in so many ways, because it's being in Libra, going back and forth in my ascendant, and now it's coming back to where I have it. Natalie, I have Lilith in Scorpio, both mean and the true Lilith. Like all of them, I have them in Scorpio, and now is back there and is in this grand cross with Pluto. And it's very interesting because there is the power of the first woman, like the power of creation. And in Spain, like not Spain, but in Spanish speaking cultures, it's been so interesting how Lilith is much more popular than in astrology circles than in English. And it's just fascinating how the culture is part of what we feel more interested or not. Like in English, it's part of the conversation, but in Spanish, every time you do anything Lilith related, it has so many views. It's like everyone is looking at that. I think it's because our Catholic background. But this idea of like anger normally is seen as an anger, ancestral connection with the women in our lineage. And exactly what you were saying, like the witch wound and every secret as well that we have in our family tree that is being revealed. And any anger that we have because we are not expressing a part of ourselves because it's not even ours. Sometimes it's just our mothers and grandmothers and all of these. Like there is a lot to do in the feminine lineage because the feminine has been repressed in so many ways. And even if we feel liberated, is part of the whole subconscious propaganda in a way, like to keep that feminine power chained. So I think with Lilith, the anger comes when we are not fully expressed, like when we are not fully the powerhouse that we are. And this is not just about women, this is about men and women. We all have this feminine, raw, wild force of creation. And it's very wild and it's very chaotic. And this is why we are afraid sometimes of this power. And this is why sometimes we are angry when we see it in someone else, but we are not expressing it ourselves, like in this mirroring way that when another person is being expressive in a way that you are not allowing yourself to express, sometimes it triggers us. And I feel that first part of this Taurus season is such a great time to do this work, to really look at any place in your life that you have given your power or that you keep giving it without even realizing it. And then in the Aries, Chiron is very related in a way because there is also anger issues sometimes. And the anger of Aries is because you are just not being spontaneous. Like Aries by itself is just life force. It's like, where is the life force without thinking, without judgment, without filters? It's like, where is the life force taking me? There. And it's like such an animal energy. And this is why like I see many correlations between the Lilith in Scorpio energy and the Aries with the Chiron. It's like, how can we allow ourselves to really fully express the life force that is currently moving through us, and without the filters of shame and guilt and repression, because I need to be the good girl and I need to look a certain way, and if I do this I should do that. All this fear of making mistakes as well. And with the Pisces is like, just trust. Like there is not perfectionist, like you don't have to have everything under control. There is an order that is beyond you. And I think the Aries energy here is showing up in the way of like, what is alive for you? And that's it. It's like, just trust that impulse. And without step 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, like you won't have at this point the whole picture of where we are going. Nobody does. I think in humanity, like at this time, nobody knows where are we going with these directions and with these people managing the world, right? But it's trust. Trust your part. What is yours to bring forward, and do it. Be brave. And I think that is the because the Chiron in Aries is like, every time you are going to have the courage to really show up and to impulse something, there is going to be a fear of being yourself. But then at the same time, you have to do it anyway. Like there is no other way. Like if you are afraid of being on camera, you can take 100 courses and you can go to the therapist and you can do 100 things. But at the end of the day, the way to like not be afraid of being on camera is by being on camera. That's it. It's like, you are afraid of heights, climb. You are afraid of anything, is just be brave and try, because normally when we are afraid of something, there is something there for us too. So that's what I wanted to bring with this. But like that Lilith transmuting anger into power, like all this is such a good opportunity this month to do all this work. And if we have triggers from our relationships, um, family, anything that is triggering us, is all the time, what is showing me of me? Like what is mirroring of what is inside of me that I need to transmute, because I have attracted this to my life for a certain reason that sometimes we don't understand why. But yeah.
Wow, this is so good. And I love Mar when you were talking about that, like literally, how do we have these breakthroughs and break frees from fear? Is like you lean in and you do that thing that's scary. That's making me think Uranus is actually over this Taurus season is finally going to get to these last 3 degrees, or starting to come to these last 3 degrees of Taurus, which are like they're powerful degrees. Some people call them like critical degrees. Some astrologers call them like the final initiation degrees. But Uranus finally making it to these like to start going through these last 3 degrees of Taurus. This is like, there's such a strong like evolutionary impulse to have these breakthroughs and break frees of where we've really been stuck or stagnant. It's like, where has comfort like become a cage, become self-limiting, keeping us stuck and stagnant? It's like it is time to have that breakthrough and break free and to step out of our comfort zone. And of course, like a safe way, like listening to our nervous system and our intuition, but to really have those like kind of radical breakthroughs and break frees. Because one of the deeper things that Uranus and Taurus has been doing for us, like from this evolutionary perspective since about 2018, 19, when Uranus first started going to Taurus, is the breakthrough and break free of where has our comfort zone become a cage for us? Where have we been creating these foundation? Where have we been like actually trying to build like a castle, like in a cage? And this is like the breakthrough and break free of like, we're having these initiations to really step out of our comfort zone. Uranus is going to go into Gemini here, and I'm just going to like
July goes in July.
July. Okay, it's going to move to 1 or 0 Gemini in July, and then like later this year, it's going to retrograde back into Taurus. So there's like some really powerful energy that we're going to start getting a taste of this Taurus season of like, let's take some like when Uranus is really activated, if you're feeling that really strong intuition of taking a leap of faith, and it feels yes in your being, even though it feels scary. Like that's usually when Uranus is saying, take that leap of faith. When you feel in your heart of heart, you feel that yes, but it's like this feels terrifying. This feels scary. That's Uranus saying, take that leap of faith. It's like the full stepping off the cliff into like we don't know where we're falling, we don't know where we're landing, but we are in that like free fall of infinite possibility. This is like what we're moving into. So that feels we're just going to start getting a little taste of that energy here this Taurus season. And also I love what's come up around the invitation for shadow work. Like I see it in the chart, I feel it. And this has been a message that's actually been coming up for me and client work, my own life, friends recently around shadow work. And I feel like, Mar, you just like really kind of tied something together for me. It's like that shadow work does not have to be like as intense and confrontational and like as we think it has to be. Like it can actually be much more gentle. I mean, not all the time, but it can. There's the possibility that it can be much more gentle than we think it has to be. Like it doesn't have to be like I mean, sometimes just life is going to happen. Like, right, maybe that's what our soul needs, is to have like a little like jolting energy, but it doesn't have to be. Like it can actually like it can just the awareness around our shadow. Like we don't have to always do all the like story that comes with it and play it out, like the shame and the guilt and like all the like story that can come with our shadow work that can actually just like kind of keep us stuck there. Like it can be the awareness, and we can have quick shifts, and then like what if that awareness from doing our shadow work actually just brings us into more pleasure and joy and delight because we're free when we're aware of our unconscious, and then we no longer, that awareness allows us to not have the unconscious behavior or dynamic or pattern. We can, like, sometimes awareness is all we need to shift things. And then that can just like bring us into more delight and joy and the freedom. Like, we don't have to always, like, I know for myself, I've had some big like revelations lately around, oh, like, how have I actually created certain situations in my life where I thought, like, oh, I'm like a victim, or it's like the other. And then it's like, wow, all the like guilt and the, the story that comes of it. But it's like, being with our emotion, feeling all that. But like, we don't have to get so stuck in the story. And it's like, wow, now I'm free. Like, I have more freedom. There's more space for pleasure and delight and joy. So that's just like a message that was coming up really strong for me as like we were sharing that, like, it doesn't have to be so like confrontational and like intense. And also, I love, and Kaylin, that you brought up like the Beltane portal, because what I'm noticing here, I looked as you were talking, when the sun is at 15 degrees, that is when we have by degree Pythia with Uranus. So, wow, that really feels like Uranus is like that higher mind. It's just like being able to bring in like the cosmic wisdom, the star codes, the light codes in Taurus, but like really in our body and in a grounded physical way. Like we are the vessel, we are the chalice for this higher wisdom to come through. With Pythia there, it's like, wow, I feel like our if we're really like grounding and opening up to this higher wisdom, like so much could come through around being the oracle, what's coming through in our or within our oracular channels, intuition. Wow. And I even feel at the start of this Taurus season with Venus, right, with Saturn and the North Node in Pisces, it's like there's this invitation to really like be the chalice, be that vessel for that like infinite wellspring of spirit to flow through us. I'm like just really feeling the strong message. How much can we open and flow? And it's like really like in our physical body, this feels for me, I'm going to be doing this practice. And it's coming through so intuitively, so I'll share it in case it resonates for you. But like grounding practices where we can open. So anything that we can, any practice that's going to help us feel safer in our nervous system within our bodies, that's going to be really powerful because our nervous system needs to be regulated to feel safe enough in our bodies to even open. Otherwise, we're like contracted. So even like as I'm just sitting here, like I'm like, oh, I need to like soften my jaw to like let my body soften. So those nervous system practices to that's going to allow our bodies to soften is what can we do? Like, I mean, just some of my favorite practices right now are because it's spring and like all the flowers are starting to, or, you know, here in the northern hemisphere at least, I'm speaking to where I live, like all the spring flowers are starting to burst and like the cherry blossom right outside my window is like, yay, starting to blossom. It's my favorite time of year when cherry blossoms are blossoming and it's like such a short time they like fall off so quickly but like just even in my own energy field I'm like oh like imagining like flowers just blossoming and bursting open and my energy field just like any practice where you're gonna feel safe to open and then like anything to let yourself just experience pleasure like find those tiny little moments to experience pleasure whether it's just going out and smelling a flower rubbing some oils on that are just gonna like open up your senses, cooking a, you know, a nourishing meal, making a nourishing, like yummy cup of tea, like whatever, just giving yourself tiny little moments of pleasure in your senses. That actually, those tiny moments really does a lot to shift your energy and open up your being. So, yeah, I think I'll leave it there.
Love that. Oh my gosh. Pleasure. Learning from pleasure. And we can still learn from pain. That's probably not going to go away, but can we now learn primarily from pleasure? I think that's a question to be with. I love that. And so uh, this Beltane window. So I know many people celebrate Beltane on the 1st or 2nd of May, May Day. But the actual cross quarter, when the sun is exactly halfway between the spring or the March equinox and the June solstice, is going to be around May 4th when it reaches that 15-degree mark. May 4th, usually May 4th or 5th is when that happens. And that's when Pluto's stationing retrograde, which is giving us a chance to do our shadow work, and we can do it in a pleasurable way. Love that. And then Mercury and is going to conjunct both Chiron and Eris, Mercury the messenger, with Chiron the shamanic healer, and Eris, who is the goddess of chaos and discord. And so, and she is like you were talking about, Lilith, she is the uninvited. She is not invited to the wedding. So she brings the golden apple, places it on the table, and says, for the fairest one of all. And it starts this whole thing that eventually becomes the Trojan War. So she creates all this discord. So where are the parts of us, and you were really speaking to this already, but what are the parts of us that we have not invited to be part of ourselves, or we have dismissed somehow or disconnected from somehow? So this is also being played out in a bigger way, not only with Lilith this month, but also with Chiron and Eris and Mercury coming together. And then later in the month, Chiron and Eris will make their exact conjunction. And I'll share a video that I did on this in the show notes so that I don't have to talk about it all now, but just to kind of get that sense of this is a powerful time. Then the other thing I wanted to share, because following up on what you were saying, Jamie, Uranus is going to conjunct the sun on May 17th and at 27 Taurus. So those last degrees of Taurus that you were talking about. And so that happens once a year. It's just going to be so happening this time. And it'll be the last sun conjunction in Taurus before it goes into Gemini, which by next year it'll make its conjunction in Gemini. I think it's going to come back into Gemini in time for that to happen. So that everything that we want to break free from, so we can experience more and pleasure and more, like what the pleasure of being in our body. We are given the gift of living in this body. It's a sacred vessel, and we have been conditioned out of that. So what the question to be with would be, how can I experience my body, living in my body as something that is of great pleasure, that I can have this pleasurable experience being here. And then the last thing is we'll be approaching the days of no shadows. So when the sun reaches 29 Taurus and 0 Gemini, and the sun will go into Gemini on May 20th, the days of no shadows. And we can talk about this more next month too, but just to say that these days are when, so we're working with our shadow, but there's days at certain latitudes on the planet where the sun will be directly overhead and there's no shadows cast when it's directly overhead. So you can put a stick in the ground or you can stand up straight and you have no shadow because the sun is directly overhead. And it's a pretty magical, amazing time to consider that there can be those moments. But most of the time, something to just keep in mind is we do cast a shadow. And so there is always a shadow that is part of us. And it doesn't mean it's bad. It just means that it's our opportunity to be aware of that and not dismiss it, miss it, or not invite it, or not have it be a part of who we are, but that we allow for it all to be an essential essence of ourselves and how we are engaging in this world. So, so what do you have to say to wrap this up?
I just wanted to bring into attention as well the trines that Venus in Aries is going to do with Mars in Leo. That feels very aligned to all this pleasure and like the masculine and the feminine in fire signs. So it's great for like passionate romance and like if you want to know a new person or if you just want to rekindle the relationship that you have. I think it's amazing that we have these lovers in fire signs doing the trine. And then also the full moon that is going to be really close to, like the sun will be really close to Uranus. And May 12th, at least here in Spain, maybe in America will be a different day. And it's very related to everything what Jamie was saying. So with all of this, I will just say to pay attention to anger and because it can come up for so many reasons, right? Like Pluto and Chiron and Aries and Lilith. And there are so many places that anger can come up. And when we are angry, many times is a sense of powerlessness. So just pay attention to what is the injustice that you feel and why, like what's the root of the anger? What is the balance, like the other side, right? Like what's the balance that you want to reignite in your life when you're angry? And instead of just reacting to the situation, look, what is it? What is the root of anything that is triggering in your life? Because there are so many opportunities to go to deep roots, not only in this life, but past lives. Ancestral healing. Like we have a month that for this shadow work that we were talking is amazing. So really to release really old stagnant stuff and to give light like I have all the light now on my face, so like just give light to this old stuff and just let them go without the story, as Jamie was saying. Like the story is what keep us tangled in like that's it. Let go of the story, move the anger, and move on as well. So that's my last message. And it's not going to be well, or maybe it can be easy, right? As Jamie was saying, we don't know. We don't know. But if it doesn't seem easy, it's okay as well. Like both ways are okay.
I love that. And I feel like being willing to not know, I mean, that's where some of the greatest magic comes from. We can step into embracing not knowing. That's where we step into possibility. So I love that. And I feel just going off of what both of you were saying, just in this, I mean, in the time we're filming, and this has been a theme through eclipse season. I feel like we're still going to have the ripples. Like with all this last few degrees of Pisces energy, which Saturn through Taurus season is also as Uranus is starting to activate those last degrees of Gemini. Of Taurus. Saturn is moving through the last degrees of Pisces. And in the start of Gemini season, I think it's May 24th, Saturn will then activate zero Aries. So we'll feel a shift. But when we're dealing with the last degrees of Pisces, I mean, there's so much, right? Every sign is so multidimensional. Like Pisces is the ocean of oneness. It's where all the infinite possibilities and timelines are existing simultaneously. It is the magic of being really connected to our higher wisdom and vision and intuition and just allowing to like channel through. Like there's so much, but also in Pisces territory, we are working with the collective unconscious and how the collective unconscious is coming out for us in a personal way. And so, and also in Pisces, it's like where it's like parsing out like what's mine versus what's just moving through the collective that I don't even actually have to like attach to. Like sometimes when we're feeling an emotion, like we're feeling energy moving through us, like people are very strong Pisces energy. I mean, I am. I can just wake up sometimes. I'm like, like what's happening? And then I like want to find the story of like, oh my gosh, like what's wrong in my life, like trying to figure it out when it's like, oh, there's just like something moving through the collective that I'm feeling. And I don't actually even have to like attach onto it and make it personal. And so this is like what we're kind of dealing with. And it's not always clear. Like sometimes something through the collective unconscious is that's taken root within us, it has a hook in us, wants to come up so we can work through it and let it move through and like remove that hook. But sometimes we're just like feeling something, it's not even ours, and we don't even we don't even have to attach to it. And so that is, and it gets kind of confusing and murky, and that's like kind of Pisces anyway. So there is that, like that's one of the Pisces, and the other end is like this crystal clarity of like the ecstatic union with the divine. I mean, it's all of it. But what we're really, a lot of us, I feel like, are working with is like, what collective unconscious stories are we like ready to clear out? What is ours that we've even taken on that's not even ours in the first place, that we don't even have to play out that story? Like there's so much through just like just an example, like the mass hypnosis is like a real thing that many of us are waking up to. But like even just like one example, there's like if you've had a lot of exposure through through childhood of like the Disney romance fairy tales, like that can condition us to be like, this is what romance is, and this is what love is, and this is what it's supposed to look like. And then, we can have the story when like that's not what we're experiencing. It's like that actually maybe was never ours to take on, but we took it on through our conditioning, through that like exposure to maybe all those like fairy Disney movies of saying what it's supposed to be, and like this is what you're supposed to, if to be happy, this is what you're supposed to experience. It's like, no, that's actually a story that we don't even have to take on. And so this is kind of all we're like with Saturn going through these last degrees of Pisces. I feel like this is a really powerful invitation to have awareness, like this, like the shadow work, having the awareness, what stories, collective unconscious stories have we taken on that are like really affecting our like emotional health and well-being, that maybe can become aware of and say, you know what, like that actually, I don't subscribe to that. That's not going to be my story. And how like empowering that can be. So that's just like a really strong message. I mean, with Saturn, with Venus on the North Nodes, we're starting the season. It's like so multidimensional. Just one thing to share. Like boundaries, that might in Taurus season, right? Like boundaries might be a good learning lesson coming up from some of us, how to implement sacred boundaries to honor our physical vessel and honoring our being so we can open up to feel more pleasure, to be like that sacred vessel. And like when we're in the last degrees of Pisces, it can kind of get confusing on like what's mine to deal with, what do I need to take on versus what can I actually say like, you know what, like that's your thing. I don't actually have to take that on. Like it feels part of the conversation. I'm speaking more to like, as we're filming this, we're just rippling from the Libra full moon, just rippling out of the Chiron sun conjunction Aries. And I'm really feeling like there's just like a strong message. Like other people are gonna have their ideas about us, their projections of us, their stories, their narratives, their judgment, their advice for us. And like we don't always have to get ourselves entangled in like other people's what they think about us or stories or what we should be doing or how we should be living our lives. Like sometimes we can just hand that back to them and say like that's actually your thing and has nothing to do with me. And when we can bring that like focus back to just like I mean like this is just it's such a simple message but it's coming to me like literally like just stay in your own lane, like live your own life for yourself, like not based on what other people think you should be doing, not based on what other people are judging you, not trying to like, oh, look how other people are living their lives at a comparison and oh, I should be like there and this and that. It's just like live your own life for yourself. And that's more of like the current astrology, maybe not what we're coming into in the Taurus season, but it just felt like important to bring through.
I love what you're saying, Jamie. I'm just going to say thank you all for being here with us. And I'm going to end with this quote that I just love because I feel like it kind of sums it all up. It says, "I'm not who I think I am. I'm not who you think I am. I am who I think you think I am." And this is the time to get over that. We need to stop thinking we are who we think other people think we are. And I think you spoke into that beautifully. So I hope everyone has a pleasurable, joyous, and amazing Taurian month, and we'll be back with you for the next Gemini solar season. Bye.